Good morning and welcome to Pot Up with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Friday edition of the program. We got an Ocala doubleheader. We're going to have Matt McCall, head coach of UMass, and then Johnny Brantley III, who's now back as the head football coach at Trinity Catholic High School in Ocala. But real quick, before we get to Matt McCall, just some news and notes. Obviously, everyone was excited about the NFL draft that happened last night. A record for a long, long time. But we're going to recap the draft pretty much on Monday after all three rounds are done. We're going to go now to our Titan MR hotline, and we're joined by a former Gator assistant coach, now the head coach of the Minutemen at UMass, Matt McCall. Good morning, Matt. How are you?
Shane, good morning, man. Doing great. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely, Matt. You know, you grew up in Ocala, go to high school at Forest High School. Well, first of all, before we get into that, as a collegiate basketball coach right now, obviously what's going on in the world is crazy. And let's go back to, I want to say, I don't even know, y'all play the Atlantic 10 tournament. Was it in Brooklyn?
It was in the Barclays Center.
Barclays Center.
In Brooklyn, Shane. And we were, it's crazy. We got a first round bye, and we were the first game in the second round. It was a noon game in the Barclays Center. And I remember the night before, normally the night before a game, you don't sleep because you're, worried about coverages and what we're going to run and how we're going to attack VCU's press and this, that, and the other. You're up all night watching film. And I was up all night checking Twitter, just trying to see, is this game even going to get played? And, I was obviously dialed into the Thunder and what was going on out there in Oklahoma City because they were taking off the floor and was worried about coach there. And so, the whole night you're just, are we even going to play? And we woke up, we had our pregame meal. We had our pregame walkthrough in the hotel, and I'm trying to get our guys engaged and locked in. But like everybody, they're checking their phones too. And we get on the bus and head to the Barclays Center and do the whole pregame warm-up, do everything, do the chalk talk before the game, and we're walking out of the locker room. I'm walking down the tunnel to walk out onto the floor, and my ops guy, my director of basketball operations, says to me, hey, they just canceled the SEC tournament. And I said to him, Brian, I don't think we're going to play this game. And sure enough, we get out on the floor. There's about a minute to go on the clock. The officials are coming over you weren't shaking hands. There were no fans in the stands. They were just going to give a fist pump before the ball was thrown up in the air. And my boss, my athletic director, Ryan Bamford, was not there dealing with stuff back on campus, was calling our sports information director. He comes sprinting across the floor and puts my boss on the phone and says, get the team off the floor. The game's not being played. So we go back to the locker room. I got to shift from, pregame mode to now the season's over. And we had one senior and thanking him, but really not knowing what was next. And our guys had to go on spring break. We put them on the bus. They asked me to do a press conference, and I walk into the press conference room, and there's 150 media in there, and I still really don't know what's going on. And finish the press conference, walk out of the Barclays Center. I'm like, well, is it safe to even jump in an Uber to go back to the hotel? And I ended up walking down through Brooklyn back to our hotel, and just a very surreal experience to be a part of. That the fact that we were actually on the floor getting ready to play the game.
And that was Thursday, correct?
That was Thursday. Yep.
Yeah, because Thursday. I remember because, when conference tournament play starts, it's one of my favorite weeks because you got all the conference games going on. And I remember grabbing some lunch, and the Big East is playing
across the river from where we were.
Yeah, I was so surprised. Everybody's canceling their tournaments. And here is, I want to say St. John's playing. I don't remember who they were playing. But then they finally canceled that game at halftime. So I was a little surprised. So now as a major college basketball coach, what are you doing with your kids? You doing Zoom meetings or what have you?
Yeah. So we, obviously we're transitioning now into finals week, and we're not allowed to do any more meetings. It's just got to be all academics right now. But, the challenge was when it ended, we still didn't really know what was going on. And we got back to campus, and our kids went on spring break. So, it was kind of like, all right, we're going to give our guys a week, and now we're going to start our exit meetings and now start working towards next year. We made tremendous progress this year. Won most conference games in the last 5 years at UMass, and got a really, really good team coming back. So it was all about kind of some exit meetings and moving into next year. And we had to do all those over Zoom. We've done a team meeting over Zoom, and now when the rules permit, we'll start doing team meetings over Zoom with our entire roster. Got 6 new guys coming in next year, 2 transfers that'll help a lot. So we'll start implementing our system and showing them offensive clips and defensive clips and things. Because again, we don't know when we're going to be allowed back on campus to start getting to work. So we'll start doing those types of things over Zoom once our new guys are allowed to be a part of them.
We're speaking with Matt McCall on the Tight Number Hotline from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Matt, let's back up to your high school days at Forest High School. You decided to be a Gator. You're a basketball guy, and you become a student manager. And what I don't think a lot of people realize this, and I didn't either, but a lot of student managers in basketball, don't y'all actually practice a lot with the team?
Yeah. I mean, you can't technically practice, but you can be a part of the scout team and, run around chasing Brett Nelson off screens and, Matt Walsh and Anthony Roberson and these guys. I mean, it was a cool experience. Both my sisters went to Forest High School. I actually went to Bellevue,
Okay.
because the basketball program at Bellevue was kind of up and coming when I was going through middle school, and I ended up going to Bellevue really because of the basketball piece of it, and kind of didn't know what I wanted to do. Didn't really knew I wanted to be a part of the game. Didn't know how bad I wanted to coach, really, until I went to Florida, and I was just going to be a normal student, Shane. I was going to pledge a fraternity and just be a normal college student, and I was away from the game my freshman year, and I couldn't stand it, and that's when I sat outside Jeremy Foley's office. I'll never forget just trying to get a meeting with Coach Donovan. I sat there, and Jeremy's secretary, Patty, was like, man, I don't know when Jeremy's going to be back. And I said, well, I'll just wait for him. And I just sat there in Ben Hill Griffin Stadium waiting on Jeremy Foley to just tell him, hey, I just want to be a fly on the wall over there in the O'Connell Center. And if there's anything I can do to help the team out, please let me know. And Jeremy got me a meeting with Donnie Jones, and they ended up hiring me as a student manager. And it was unbelievable. It gave me, when you're on campus with 50,000 students at the University of Florida, it gave me a family to be a part of. And, when I got there, it was Udonis Haslam's senior year. So I was there for that piece of it. And then my responsibilities just really grew each and every year, and developed unbelievable relationships with the staff. Anthony Grant, Donnie Jones, John Pelfrey, those guys were there at that time. And my responsibilities just grew. And then as I graduated with my undergrad, I kind of went into Coach Donovan's office and said, Coach, what's next? And he said, well, you better go to grad school because you're not leaving here. And that's what I did. And at that point in time, Noah, Horford, and Brewer were coming on campus. And, over the summertime, the rules are different now. We can work with our players in the summertime. We get 8 weeks of individual instruction where we can be out on the floor in the summertime with our players. Back then, you couldn't do that. So it was up to the managers and the graduate managers to work our players out. So I got a lot of freedom in that. It just so happened at that point in time, it was Noah, Horford, Brewer, Green, Chris Richard, and I was in charge of summer workouts from an individual instruction standpoint. So there was unbelievable experience for me at that point in my career to really put my stamp on becoming a coach.
Yeah, in 2006, you were named Director of Basketball Operations. Was basically you were Billy's right-hand man, correct?
That's exactly right. So in the 06 season, the 05-06 season, the first national championship, I was a GA. I was getting my master's, and I could be out on the floor and be in practice and doing those types of things. When I became the Director of Basketball Operations, you're not allowed to do that. That's kind of the entry-level job into coaching. And I was Billy's right-hand guy. Wherever he went, I went. If he spoke, I was there. It was a great experience for me. I did that for 2 years, Shane. And then I walked into his office and I said, Coach, I'm so appreciative of everything that you've done for me, but I want to be a coach. And I don't want to be someone's guy. I want to be on the floor coaching. I want to be on the road recruiting. I want to be a coach. And he said, well, Matt, then you need to go out there and get experience. And when you get that experience, I'll hire you back as an assistant coach. And Mike Jarvis got hired at Florida Atlantic. I'll never forget Coach Donovan and Larry Shyatt would not stop calling him until he picked up the phone and took a meeting with me. I mean, Coach Shyatt was unbelievable in that sense. He hounded Mike Jarvis. And I got in my Chevy Trailblazer. I drove down to Boca Raton, and he hired me after an interview down there. I packed my car, drove down, had no idea really where I was going, what I was doing. But I went down there and just got to work. We lost, I think we were 6-26 my first year down there. And in my third year, we were fortunate enough to be conference champions. And then Billy hired me back as an assistant.
Yeah, when you came back here, obviously you were here for a couple of years, and then you got an opportunity to be hired and be the head coach at UT Chattanooga. And Will Wade, people realize he was the head coach that you took over for, and now is the head coach at LSU. Talk a little bit about the hiring process, what it was like, taking your first job, being in charge.
Well, I think, anytime you're a part of the University of Florida, or you're a part of a program like that, or you work for a future Hall of Famer and Coach Donovan, success is going to bring opportunities. And I had some opportunities. The year that we were number one in the country and went to the Final Four, I think we won 30 games in a row that year. We were 18-0 in the SEC. I had some opportunities after that year, and Coach didn't think any of them were the right fit for me at the right time. And the UT Chattanooga thing came up, and Coach Donovan had been in the league with Chattanooga when he was the head coach at Marshall. And he was kind of like, Matt, that's the job. And Coach's biggest thing was, don't ever chase jobs or pursue jobs. Let them come to you. And his other thing is you shouldn't have to go in and win an interview. You should be the guy that they want from day one, and they should come after you. And that's really what happened at Chattanooga. And walked into a situation, and this is unique in the sense of we had 100% retention when I got there. Nobody left, nobody transferred. I walked into a room and I saw, 13 guys that were sitting there and obviously hurt and upset that their coach left. And they really kind of bonded and came together in that time. And I just walked in and said, hey guys, I'm here to help. And we took off, but it was a great place, Shane. It was a great place to live. We loved living there. It was a great league, a great conference with, the likes of ETSU, Wofford, UNC Greensboro. It was night in and night out, just having battles in that league. It was great. And I think, even for me coming through the door, first year head coach, you win 29 games and you go to the NCAA tournament. Wow, this is easy. This is how this be. Obviously, like UMass has been a tremendous challenge and a humbling experience, and have learned an enormous amount as we try to turn this program around. But, had a great boss in David Blackburn at Chattanooga, and got a great opportunity and really enjoyed our time spent down there. And again, owe a lot to Coach Donovan in the sense of just, the job that he did, providing us with opportunities as assistant coaches to become head coaches has a lot to do with who he is.
Matt, when you look at taking over the job at UMass, plays in the Atlantic 10, talk a little bit about, I know you're close with Anthony Grant, who you had to go up against this year at Dayton. Do you think the Dayton Flyers this year had a chance to maybe make a run and win it all?
Shane, it was interesting when I was in the Barclays Center doing a press conference when they took us off the floor. One of the members of the media asked me that, and I think 100%. You look at how they played. You look at how unselfish they played. You looked at the ball movement, the player movement, how guys just really, really bought into their role. I mean, it was very similar to that 06 team, 07 team at Florida. And obviously Anthony was an assistant there at that time. Just how unselfish his team was. I mean, they lost 2 games all year. Both of them were overtime. One of them was to Kansas, who people thought could win the national championship. So I think that, and that was one of the things that I immediately thought of when this whole thing got canceled was, man, I feel for Anthony. I feel for his group in terms of just how good they were. That couldn't have been an easy thing for him to do, to walk into his locker room and talk to his team about the season being, canceled. But there's no question that they are a Final Four caliber team. But again, I think, the NCAA tournament, it's all about matchups. You got to have a little bit of luck involved. I mean, you look at our first run in '06. We go to Jacksonville. We played South Alabama. UW Milwaukee upset somebody. We played them. Then we played Georgetown and Villanova were two really good teams. And then the national semifinal, we played George Mason, a team that at that point in time, we're going to beat 9 times out of 10, just from matchups and, talent standpoint that year. So, again, you got to get a little bit of lucky, but there's no question they had the right pieces and they played the game the right way to make a deep run in the tournament.
Matt, when you look at obviously your mentor Billy Donovan means a lot to you. When you look at his coaching tree, so to speak, it's Anthony Grant, Pelfrey, Shaka Smart, Donnie Jones, Richard Pitino, now yourself. Talk a little bit about, I know you didn't get to come to the O'Connell Center because you were busy coaching when they named the court Billy Donovan Court. Talk a little bit about, what he has meant to you and what he means to this university here at Florida.
It's ironic. We played Dayton that day, and we played them at home. And actually, it was a battle. It was a really, really close game. And after the game, I'm in the back tunnel getting ready to go media. And I said, Anthony, is the private jet here? Let's me and you hop on this private jet and fly down to Gainesville. And our game was early enough. Had we known that our game was going to be that early, we probably would have tried to make arrangements to be there because I was dialed in. We put the kids to bed. We have 2 young kids, me and my wife, and I was dialed in and watched every second of it. But I owe everything to him. I really do in terms of where I am in my career. When the whole UMass thing happened, he called me and said, "Hey, UMass is calling me. What do you think?" I didn't know anything about the job. And I said, "Coach, what do you think?" And he said, "You got to take the job." And, then I go through the interview process and they called him and said they were going to hire me. And he goes, "What do you think?" I said, "Coach, I don't know. What do you think?" He said, "You got to take the job." And just the level of humility, Shane. I mean, him, your time in Gainesville, being around him, he's so approachable. He cares a tremendous amount about everybody. And he's still to this day, if I'm dealing with something, if I'm dealing with a player, or if I'm dealing with a staff issue, or if I got a basketball question, or whatever it is, I can call him right now at 8:15 in the morning. He's going to pick up the phone. He's going to try to help me. He was just so generous to me, just, from a student manager to a graduate assistant to hiring me as an ops guy to keeping his word, telling me, if you go get experience as an assistant coach somewhere else, and I'm going to hire you back. That's exactly what he did. And he didn't have to do that, and continued to provide for me and teach me, and is a mentor to me to this day. I mean, you could see, I've never seen Coach be emotional in terms of, he doesn't like attention towards himself, but you could see at that ceremony at the O'Connell Center that day, it was coming out of him a little bit. And that's just because he's had such an impact on all of us assistant coaches, to his players, to see all those guys back there in the O'Connell Center, from the Horfords to Noahs to Bradley Beal, who only played for him for 1 year, to even the guys that when he first got there, was just amazing to me.
You're pretty close to those guys, those 04s. Do you ever get, I don't know what they can do to help you in a recruiting process, because that's probably illegal, but do you have those guys ever speak to your teams if possible?
Yeah, we from a recruiting standpoint, you can't. Obviously, Shane, I've thought a lot about that right now in terms of, when we can get our whole team, the new guys and everything, on a Zoom call, having some of those guys get on and talk to them about their experiences, and about being a pro and the road to getting there and their college experience. We've had some good ones at UMass too. Marcus Camby has been tremendous to me since I've been here. And is always, willing to help. He comes to games. He's been great to me since I've been here. And even Coach Cal is obviously cares deeply about this place. So I'm going to try to get creative here, Shane, when we can get our whole team, on some, and reach out to some of those guys and have them, talk to our team. No question about it.
How's your team looking for next year?
Shane, I'm excited. We had some serious momentum coming down the stretch. I think we won 6 out of our last 8, whatever it was. We ended up losing at the buzzer on a crazy play to Rhode Island, who ended up finishing 3rd in our league. We had a lead against Dayton down the stretch, and we lost to them. Those were two of our losses coming down the stretch. We've got a great nucleus coming back. We've got arguably the best player in the league coming back. Trey Mitchell, as a freshman, was second in the league in scoring as a freshman last year, behind only Obi Toppin, who's going to end up being a lottery pick. We've got a tremendous class coming in. Some people rank it number 1 in the league. Some people rank it number 2, with a great nucleus back. So I'm excited. We've got a chance. We finally got this place moving in a very, very positive direction. I mean, it's been a challenge, and it's been a humbling experience for me. I've learned a lot about myself. It has not been easy, but now that we finally got this place moving in the right direction, I couldn't be more excited. I mean, you look at the trajectory of UMass when Coach Cal was here in the 90s. They had a year of about a 5-year run that was unbelievable. Outside of that, it's just been pockets of success. And now we've got to get it to a place where we can sustain that. And I had to go through some things and learn a lot of stuff about myself as a head coach in order for us to do that. And we finally got our program in that place, man. And I'm excited.
We got a Facebook Live question here brought to you by Pound Hurt, your preferred business interruption attorneys. Mary wants to know, and I was getting ready to go here, is he related to Wayne McCall? Yes, Wayne McCall is his dad, and he was a teammate of Coach Spurrier's. And I was going to bring up how you and your family participate in the Silver 60s and what a cool event that is every year.
It's ironic, Shane. I was on the phone the other day with Donnie Jones, and Donnie was obviously an assistant at Florida when I was there during the national championship years. And me and Donnie were talking about, trying to do something like Silver 60s with the teams that Billy had at Florida, because there's just so many relationships there. And some of my best friends are within that group. I've really, obviously my wife, have tried to explain to her just how important that group is to my family, whether it's the Trammell family, the Spurrier family, the Durrance family, the Shannon family. We're all, those are some of our best friends. And that group that was created and started, by Gene Peak and the Peak family and my dad and everybody. I mean, it's a tremendous group. It's disappointing we can't go this year. It was canceled, but it's something that my family looks forward to every single year, and give Coach Ray Graves a tremendous amount of credit for that group. And, you can see how close those guys still are. It's awesome.
Yeah, y'all should do something for the Billy Donovan era, because I guess about 4 or 5 years ago when Coach Spurrier came back as the ambassador, he put together a reunion for all 12 of his teams, and it was a great weekend that we had. Hey, Matt, we appreciate you joining the program. Good luck up there at UMass. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Shane, sounds good, man. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely. That's Matt McCall, head coach at UMass. We're going to take a timeout here on the program. We come back, we'll be joined by John Brantley III, another Ocala native. You're watching and listening to Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Time out! Time out! Hey! Time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to chill for now.
Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security, small enough to serve you, large enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Area Rug Masters, your #1 choice for rug cleaning. And Pound Hurt, preferred personal injury attorneys.
Our touchdown sponsors are Gator BTW, Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, The Keys Grill and Piano Bar, UF Mover Guys, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Cloud9 Spa, Coldstone Creamery, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Center State Bank.
If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, podupwithshane.com, and click on the Advertise button or call Freddie Wiebe at 352-284-3733.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
He's looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown.
Welcome back to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Point is where the Gators come to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Palmetto Moon, Skechers, Starbucks, the Keys Grill and Piano Bar, Select Shades, Regal Cinemas, and coming soon, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We will see you at Celebration Point where the Gators come to celebrate. We want to thank Matt McCall for joining us. Now we're going to go to another legend in the Ocala area, John Brantley III, head football coach for the second time at Trinity Catholic High School. Coach Brantley, how are you, my man?
Big Shane, how we doing, buddy?
Doing all right, buddy. Appreciate you getting up. I know we woke you up early this morning.
You ain't got to worry about that. I'm still over at Shady Brothers. We're fighting this virus food deal, so we're still getting after it.
Yeah, let everybody know. I mean, you were a longtime insurance guy there in Ocala. Obviously, coached a lot of high school ball. Then took a job at Cheney Brothers. Now you're back coaching at Trinity Catholic. You going to still be working at Cheney?
Yeah, I went to make that a full-time position there at Trinity Catholic. I was going to be involved with development and fundraising and stuff like that. But when the owner of Cheney Brothers down south, where our home office is out of Riviera, even though Riviera Beach down in Palm Beach County, our largest facilities here in Ocala. So when he found out that I was going to leave, and we got together and compromised a deal where I would stay and be the director of recruiting for Cheney Brothers, and it's going to work out. Probably puts a little bit more on my plate, but it keeps me out of trouble, keeps me busy, and like I told my kids, heck, if it doesn't work out going to the next level of playing ball, I got you a job at Cheney Brothers. So it's a win-win situation.
No doubt about it. Well, let's look back at your playing career. Obviously, went to Forest High School, had a lot of success there. Did you always want to grow up and be a Gator, Johnny?
Not really, Shane. I mean, we had just moved Scott, the Brantley family. I started the 8th grade. Obviously, Scott's 11 months younger, so he started the 7th grade here in Ocala when we moved here in 1970. He grew up watching Clemson football. We grew up in Greenville, South Carolina, which is only about 35 miles away from Clemson. And Dad's business up there, they were all big Tigers and everything. So we grew up watching Clemson football and got attached to them. Had a couple of players in our neighborhood that went to the University of Georgia. So those were our two teams that we kind of watched. My uncle went to the University of South Carolina law school. So that was where we kind of got brought up, and that's what we were watching. But we got down here, as you know, when you move to Ocala, there's a couple of things you do. You buy all your clothes from Grinders, and you go to the University of Florida in most cases. And so we ended up 25 miles up the road at the University of Florida. And what a great decision, because like I try to tell a lot of my kids, you're going to live in the state of Florida, go to a state school, whether it's Florida State, whatever, because they're going to be able to keep up with you. And I'll give you a prime example is young Johnny Brantley up there in Gainesville right now, working with Stryker and medical sales. He's a Gator. A lot of people question all the time, why didn't he stay with his Texas commitment or go up and coach Spurrier in South Carolina? But, football is a small timeline in your life. And the bigger timeline is what you do after football. And he's reaping the benefit of that, of being a Gator and being right there in your backyard there in Gainesville.
Yeah, you've recruiting. I mean, now you deal with high school kids that you're coaching. You had to deal with little Johnny getting recruited. What was the recruiting process back when you and Scott were coming out, and who were the main coaches at UF that recruited you?
Well, it wasn't as sophisticated and driven like it is now, and it's all basically driven by social media now. I'm just blown away. And just the 2 or 3 years I was out of the game coaching, the difference of social media from back in 15 when I did my 1-year deal at Bellevue High School to what it is now. That's the biggest difference. We didn't have all that stuff when Scott and I were coming up and recruiting. And obviously Doug Dickey was the head football coach at Florida when went up there and signed up there. But, they kept in touch with you a little bit. You made your visits. I went up to FSU and Auburn, but it just it doesn't have the impact and everything that goes along with this recruiting. It's crazy what they do now. And it makes the job a lot harder for that head football coach and the coaches, because the parents are looking for you to do your job to make sure these kids get recruited and everything. And it's a tough task.
Did they have Yon Hall back in the day when y'all were here?
Oh yeah, I lived in Yon Hall. We lived in there. I lived in the stadium 3 years, and then once you gain your grades and you got your grades in order after your sophomore year, you could move out to Wind Meadows, which is all out there where near Celebration is right there right now, and we'd move out there. So that was a big deal to get your grades in order so you could get the hell out of that stadium. I mean, even though it was fun and convenient, because you could just stay in shorts and T-shirts all day and never leave the building, actually, and go down and get dressed for practice. And we used to park in the south end zone. That wasn't even a permanent section. That was all built up stands, and we used to park behind there. So that was the good old days there at Yon Hall now.
On the Titan MR text line, we got a text from Joe. He wants to know, how cool was it to be able to be a Gator with your brother?
Well, it was a lot of fun. Scott came up. I went up there, and I played baseball the whole time up there as well. And Scott played 1 year. People don't realize Scott Brantley. We laugh because Wade Boggs is good friends out of ours. He met him, knew him down in Tampa and everything when Scott played with the Bucks for 8 years. And in the same draft out of high school, Scott got drafted ahead of Wade Boggs. He got drafted by the Mets in the 5th round and everything. So we played 1 year of baseball together at Florida, and then played, all 4 years together at Florida. And what was kind of neat about it, my second year at Florida, I got redshirted. So Scott and I played the last 3 years out of the same class.
Yeah, speaking of baseball, we just got another text here from Susan. She wants to know, how difficult was it to juggle both sports at Florida?
Well, from the school aspect of it, it was tough because I was in building construction my first couple of years. My dad ran a big bridge operation. We did the Skyway Bridge, built all the bridges, 75, all the ones around Orlando, Miami. So, I was kind of heading in that direction. But when you play two sports at the University of Florida, eventually it's going to catch up to you. And, I had to drop down a little bit, but I graduated and got out of there with a nice degree and everything. But it's difficult because your demand on your time, especially baseball, you're flying out every other weekend or every weekend. And then you have those 1 or 2 games during the week. Obviously, most of them were at home, but you had to hit the road. But even if it was at home, it was in the evening. So you had to really manage your time. And so it was difficult. That's why you don't see a lot of kids doing it now. And the kids now today versus when I was back there playing in the late 70s and everything, you played multiple sports and you stayed with it. As you know now, Shane, everybody's got their kids playing on 3 different teams in the summer and playing travel ball, and it's more specified to a one sport deal. But going back to your question, it was difficult, but I wouldn't change it. I mean, it probably hurt me more in football, but like I always said, my heart played baseball, but my ego played football.
We're speaking with John Brantley III, former Gator quarterback, on the Titan MR hotline from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. You were coached by Coach Spurrier. There's only been a handful of us that understand what it's like to play for him. Talk about some of those experiences and what you learned from him.
Well, a lot of the stuff that I use today, coaching-wise and offensive scheme-wise, all, basically came from Coach Spurrier, which came through Kerwin Bell when we coached together my first 4 years of being an assistant coach at Trinity Catholic with Kerwin and Ricky Nattil and Big David Williams. But, I got there with Coach Spurrier's first year in 78. People don't remember that. You go into his office and he's got all pictures of his quarterbacks. I'm the top left up there, the first one, and it's in black and white. Hell, they didn't even have color back there, Shane. And but it was a unique experience because Coach had just come out of the Tampa Bay Bucks. That 1 year he played with the Bucks. Then he was out of ball for a year, and then Coach Dickey brought him in, and he was figuring out, learning the coaching respect of the game. So I caught him at a fun time. I mean, he was a lot of fun. He wanted to make up plays like he did even later on. But then I'd have to go reel him in sometimes for a 2:00 meeting. He'd be across the street with his little Mazda with his back hatch up and hitting golf balls out there where the band used to. That's where Bull Gator parking lot is right now. And he'd be out there hitting pitching wedges. And I'd have to go get him and tell him we got a 2:00 meeting getting ready to happen. So, but he figured it out, obviously. And that's why he's the guy he is today. I love him. Talked to him this week about his birthday. And matter of fact, I'm trying to get Scotty, depending on what Scotty's going to do with his coaching career. I'd like to thrown an offer out to him to get him back here to Ocala and coaching and get settled into a job. But no, Jerry and Mom and that family, we've been close. We got a condo over there at the beach in St. Augustine and about 2 miles away from Coach. So we spend a lot of time together and on the golf course. Love that family.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Okay, so let's, you've been coaching high school ball a long time. I want to say when Kerwin started the Trinity Catholic job, you were his JV coach. Johnny was his starting quarterback, who was the Gatorade Player of the Year. And then you took over there and you won a state title as well. Just talk about, I don't think people realize the importance of a high school football coach. I personally feel like a high school football coach is the most influential person that a young athlete will ever have. Just talk about your enjoyment of coaching high school ball and working with the kids.
Well, there's nothing like it. I mean, hell, at my age, coming back now just tells you how important I think it is. I mean, I had the president of the school and the AD of the school show up here about 5 weeks ago. I'm sitting at the house just minding my own business, watching TV. We hadn't even got into the virus stuff then, and they came in here and sat down, and it's not only important for your football and your football players, it's important for the school. If you got success in football, the good ones recognize it kicks off the school year and it builds excitement for not only the school but all the other sports. But then again, the influence that you make on kids. I mean, I still talk to my high school coach today. Scott and I had Brent Hall, who lives here in Ocala now. We meet him. Scott meets him every Friday for lunch. He hadn't lately due to the virus deal, but he meets him every Friday for lunch, and we talk on a regular basis. Besides my dad, probably the biggest influence on me and my brother that we've ever had. So that's the importance of a football coach. And Coach Spurrier told me the other day, he said, you getting back in it now, even though you were only out of it 4 or 5 years, you'll be a better coach because you'll find out it's not as much about you and what you're trying to accomplish that it is for those kids and what you're trying to give them and give them an opportunity to have success at the high school level. And if they got enough talent, to get them to the next level. And that's our job. And that's the way I look at it. When I hear some coaches say, well, that ain't my job. That's your job as a parent to get your child ready. No, because those parents, they don't understand the system. They don't know the coaches. I've enjoyed just getting back into it, talking to all the former coaches that I know and everything to help get these kids. Talked to Larry Fedora, Joe Wickline. They're both out at Baylor now. Trotwine called yesterday, offensive line. We got 3 D1 linemen here at Trinity Catholic. So I'm talking to those guys, and those parents don't have that. And that's my job. That's a coach's job. And the ones that don't look at it that way, they don't get it.
Yep, very well said. Let's go back to when little Johnny was being recruited, and then, as you mentioned, he originally committed, I think, to Texas, and then he ended up signing with Urban and Dan Mullen here. And I mean, gosh, he was on a team with some great quarterbacks, and he had a bunch of different coordinators in his career here. But from a parent standpoint, having played in the Swamp, when he runs out on that tunnel wearing number 12, the number you wore, what was that feeling like?
Well, as I always say, you can't buy that. I mean, we had 4 seats in the chair backs in the south end zone. We were season ticket holder 30 years. When Steve came back to Florida, my wife and I just celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary, and we had season tickets down there, and we had to split 2 up to get us 4 together because I got a daughter besides Johnny, and Johnny and I would sit in the 2 that kind of 3 rows up at the break that split the goalposts, and that was a way to kind of talk ball, and here's what they're trying to accomplish, what they're doing. And so from a young age till he was being that highly recruited athlete, that's what we did every Saturday for home games and everything. But then to be up there and watch him run through the tunnel, it's you can't buy it. I mean, hell, you're seeing it right now with your son up there, and it was special. It had its moments, Shane, don't get me wrong. It's tough when hell, I loved it when he was sitting over there being the backup the first 2 years. He's over there, and he's you're the greatest job in football is the backup quarterback. I mean, because they're being talked about, but you're not being exposed. And then once that time comes, that's when the thing hits. And that's what I've always said. Anyway, the SEC. And I talk about it when I go to the Manning camp, work the Manning camp each year and everything. That's one of the things that we talk about quarterbacks is the roller coaster ride you have. In the SEC as a quarterback, you're only as good as your last pass. And a football coach in the SEC is only as good as his last win. And it's a tough business. But that's what you sign up for, and that going into it. So it's a roller coaster. And you better be ready for the downs because they're going to come. I don't care who you are. And talking to some of those old Alabama quarterbacks, and you wouldn't think that they had many downs, but you're always being tested and everything. So as I talk to people about my son today, from an adversity standpoint, there's nothing that's going to hit him in the face with anything that's what he went through at the University of Florida. He came out a better person for it. And I'm going to tell you, there's some times there that I was proud of his composure and everything because I don't know if I'd have handled it the same way.
I would agree with that 100%. Last couple things for you. Had some down years here under McElwain or what have you. Give me your thoughts from a former player standpoint, now as a high school coach, your thoughts on what Dan Mullen and his staff have done in the 2 years they've been here.
Well, I've always, Dan recruited Johnny. So we've known him ever since his days with Urban and everything at the University of Florida. A lot of respect for him. Great ball coach, great X and O guy. And he's obviously turned into being a great head coach. Just what he did at Mississippi State put confirmation on being a great head coach and everything. And knowing Coach Hevesy and Coach Gonzalez and those guys during that tenure, he's done a nice job surrounding himself with good people. And that's something you got to do as a head coach, even at the high school level. I've kind of brought back my little band back together with coaches that I know I can trust that are going to get the job done. I don't micromanage my guys. I let them coach and let them have the freedom. And that's what Dan does. He does a great job with that. But the thing he does, and he's figured out, and he learned that from Urban Meyer, regardless what you think about Urban Meyer, and, I've had my differences with him, probably the best recruiter I've ever been around because he's a bulldog when it comes to recruiting. Hell, just look at the draft last night. The first 3 picks were all Ohio State guys. I mean, the first 3, and that's what Coach Meyer did, and then Coach Mullen has that same philosophy. And I know just being at Trinity Catholic, you can be the best coach in the world, but you're a great coach when you got the best players also, and that means a lot. And that's what's happening in today's college game with Alabama and Clemson and those guys, and that's where Florida, and that's where Dan Mullen's getting to, and he's about a recruiting class 1 or 2 away from being exceptional again, and he'll get there. I'm proud to have him as our head coach, and as always, proud to be a Gator.
Yeah, we're speaking with John Brantley III on the Titan MRI hotline. We got another comment here on Facebook Live brought to you by Pound Hurt, your preferred business interruption attorneys. Nat says, love hearing from folks like John Brantley. Last thing for you, Coach. I don't know when we're going to play football or what we're going to do, but from a high school coach's perspective right now, what are you doing with your kids? I mean, you can't work them out or anything, but are y'all doing Zoom meetings? Or are you sending them workouts for them to do at home? What's a high school coach doing with his players right now?
Well, right now, the tough part for me is that I had a meeting, got introduced to the squad, and met with them and kind of went over what I expected out of them and everything. And then about a week later, we had meet Coach Brantley with the parents and the players. And then right after that, the virus thing hit. So I haven't really been able to spend a whole lot of time with our kids. But what I'm doing, we've got a team app. We got some stuff that we're doing. I'm staying in touch with them. I'm sending them film of former outstanding Trinity teams and highlights and music videos of state championships to start building that excitement of what they're hopefully going to be able to accomplish as well. So I'm doing that and sending them film of a lot of the stuff I did at Bellevue, which offensively we'll probably incorporate a lot of that. So just basically just communicating through social media and stuff and also I'm telling them, Shane, because this downtime with this schooling the way it is right now, online school, here's a chance for some kids to really, pick up their GPA. I got a running back who I just got offers from Iowa State and Western Kentucky, Jamarian Samuels, outstanding running back. And, he's doing okay in school. He could do better. And here's a chance, not that it's easier, but, you got to think it's got to make it easier doing online stuff. I'm really harping to my kids. Get your work done on this online stuff and get your GPA up as high as you can, because when it comes down to recruiting and everything, it's eventually your grades are going to dictate where you're going to go.
Yeah, last thing I know, you and Scott, y'all have the Brantley Golf Challenge. You give money back to the community there. I think the youth football leagues. Did you have to postpone your tournament or move the date or what have you?
Yeah, we had it was the 30th annual this year of the Brantley Golf Challenge, and we give majority of the money to the Marion County Youth Football League, which is getting ready to celebrate its 50th anniversary. And Dad, with some local business people, we moved to Ocala in 1970. They didn't have youth football, and they had just eliminated middle school football. So Dad's group put together and started the MCYFL with 5 teams out at Booster Stadium. Now it's up to like 31 teams, 3 different divisions, 2 football fields at Jervey Gant. Without a doubt, the largest independent football league in the state of Florida, and very proud of that. But that's where the money, but yeah, due to the virus, it's always been Mother's Day weekend on Saturday, a Friday night deal, Saturday 6-man team tournament out at Juliet Falls. And yeah, we've postponed it to the end of June. And hopefully by then things will be turned around and we'll be able to get out and have some fun and raise some money and get that going again. But we've enjoyed doing that and giving back to our local community.
Now, you probably sold out, right? Because I was going to say if anybody was interested in donating.
Yeah, I mean, you could call and get you on a little waiting list, because due to the change, you may have some teams fall out that couldn't play that certain weekend. But I have about 22 sixums, because that's about the max we can handle the number of carts out there. So we've gotten such a good reputation of having a good fun time out there, and the people look forward to it. And a 6-man team scramble is something different you don't see on a regular basis. So the uniqueness of that and everything that we try to do to recognize the youth of Marion County, it makes it a unique event.
Well, Johnny, we appreciate you joining the program. You and your family be safe, and we'll be anxious to see how the Trinity Celtics do this year, my man.
Well, it's going to be fun. I mean, we've got about 4 or 5 D1 players and 3 offensive linemen. I know. I may have to run the ball more than I'm accustomed to. Coach Spurrier may not be proud of me. I may be running the ball more than I want to, but you gotta adjust to your talent.
No doubt about it. Well, buddy, be safe. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Same to you.
All right, that's John Brantley III joining us on the Titan MRI Hotline. We're going to take our second time out of the program. We'll be right back. You're listening and watching Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Time out! Time out! Hey! Time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security, small enough to serve you, large enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte and surrounding areas. Area Rug Masters, your #1 choice for rug cleaning. And Pound Hurt, preferred personal injury attorneys.
Our touchdown sponsors are Gator BTW, Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, The Keys Grill and Piano Bar, UF Mover Guys, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Cloud9 Spa, Coldstone Creamery, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Center State Bank.
If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the advertise button or call Freddie Wiebe at 352-284-3733.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
He's looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown!
Welcome back to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. At Center State Bank, we put business first. We are the largest community bank in the state of Florida and understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 5 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. To learn more, visit centerstatebank.com. Center State Bank, member FDIC. We want to thank John Brantley III and Matt McCall for joining the program today. We will recap the draft on Monday, but the SEC, 15 picks in the first round, sets a record. And congratulations to Gator C.J. Henderson, who will be joining the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think that's a tremendous pick for them. I think C.J. is a guy that will be an NFL player for a long, long time. Next week's program, let me see if I got a list here who all is going to be on it. I want to say we have Billy Donovan Sr., we have Riedel Anthony, we have Lawrence Wright, Tim Walton and Shannon Snell, Shane Edge, and Judd Davis, all scheduled to join the program next week. Should be a fun-filled week as well. But that's pretty much going to be a wrap for today's show. Again, I want to thank Matt McCall, head coach at UMass, and John Brantley III, former Gator, for joining us on the program. Be safe out there, folks. We'll talk to you next week. Take care.